Biggly Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street has served 3 generations of shoppers since 1955 as the largest locally owned independent grocery store in the area. The Joseph family owners grew up here, so you know they're invested in the community. They provide the biggest variety of choice meats, the freshest produce, an in-house deli bakery, great wine selection, and more of your favorite brands. Every purchase gives you gasoline points so you can save at our pumps. Order online for pickup at bigglypigglywiggly.com. Biggly Piggly Wiggly on Spring Street. No one beats the pig.
The opinions expressed on Scoop Squad Truth Pod are those of the hosts and the guests and not those of WVRC Media. Scoop Squad Truth Pod, copyright 2024. Scoop Squad Truth Squad, LLC.
Welcome to the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. I'm Ashley Switzer, I'm your host, and I'm here with my co-host, Ron Hughes, and hey.
Hey there, how are you?
Long time no see.
It's been about, 48 hours?
Yeah. We had a special edition.
Special edition. If you haven't caught that one, we kind of sprung that on you by surprise. But
we did.
It was Max Fisher, right?
Yep.
He was born in Russia.
Yep.
And he's a liaison, so to speak, with
West Virginia Faith and Freedom Coalition. Yeah.
And he's recently gone to Israel and to Gaza and escorted some U.S. Congress people and the lieutenant governor from North Carolina to kind of get an idea and gave us a bird's eye view, but also not only a bird's eye view, but an inside look at the situation in Gaza because he saw it from both perspectives. And
he just completed the trip in October.
There were things that
maybe it was November.
He was there in November.
Yeah.
But there were things he saw and reported on that nobody else. I mean, I'm talking national media has reported on.
Well, and speaking of Gaza, a city council meeting was last night. I was there. I'm not really going to go into too much of the word salad that Amy Goodwin tossed up last night. It was just a lot of fluff and a lot of numbers. And, apparently we've increased our tax base. And, we've got all kinds of new revenue coming in from taxes. And, I mean, there's just really wasn't anything of substance there. I feel like we gave a little bit of a response. If you haven't watched that live, you need to go back and watch it because we gave a little bit of a response from Shannon Snodgrass, Adam Knopf, and Beth.
And you can catch that on the Facebook page.
Yes, it's on the Scoop Squad.
Believe it or not, we're also on X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yes.
And we try to put things on there as well, especially copies of the show. If you're more of a Twitter person than a Facebook person, it's there as well.
But the group that is causing or that called for a resolution calling for a ceasefire in the Middle East was there last night and making a stand. They actually had tape over their mouth. They just to symbolize the silence that they felt they got from City Council and Amy Goodwin when she maneuvered behind closed doors behind their backs to kill that ceasefire resolution. It was pretty powerful. They stood. And then they turned their backs and
did they get harassed by city council members?
One city council member, I feel like I don't understand this. Why, one council member, a couple of them spoke directly to the group, and one in particular just shamed them. How dare you shame us? How dare you come in here and criticize this mayor after all she's done? And it just I don't get that.
They feel like they're untouchable.
They forget who they work for. If you were talking to your boss that way, you'd get fired.
Right. You,
Miss Faegre, work for us. Not for Amy Goodwin. Not for your friends on council. You, Janine Faegre, you work for us.
Yeah.
How dare you stick your finger in the face of the people that you work for?
Right. And you don't have to agree with this group.
No, just sit there and take it.
Right. Let them have their say because what they have to say, they don't cause any problems for council or the city.
But my hunch is, they're going to do it in a peaceful way, but let me tell you, they're going to have an impact next election cycle. But we're going to move on from that because
we got to move on.
Yes, we've got an important guest here in the studio, and I want to read really quickly a headline from last week. Sentencing for former West Virginia VOAD finance and operations manager set for Thursday. That was the wrong headline because that has already happened. And this gentleman has already been sentenced in this situation with VOAD. Was sentenced last week, and he is here in the studio with us. And shortly after that sentencing came down, Benjamin Cisco, who is in the studio with us, posted on his Facebook page, which was pretty powerful. At any given moment, you have the power to say, this is not how my story is going to be written. And his comment on that was, my moment begins now. Right.
And, just to kind of summarize, February 2023, Benjamin Cisco, former employee of VOAD, was arrested and charged for embezzling funds from the West Virginia Volunteering Organization's Active in Disasters. He has pled guilty and is currently facing sentencing, which he did get sentenced last Thursday. But he didn't act alone. There were several more high-ranking leaders from within that organization that have acted the same, if not worse, because of the cover-up.
Well,
and this has gone untouched.
He and maybe some others, I think, were thrown under the bus because they were going to come forward. They were whistleblowers, right. And he's not the first whistleblower that was going to come forward. Dating back to probably before the organization was a year old, there were things that were going on within this organization that people were going to speak about, and those people got fired. So Ben, thank you for coming. First of all,
get a little closer to the microphone.
Yeah,
thank you for having me.
You are so welcome.
These are real expensive microphones. That means you have to get close.
Yeah,
get really close to them.
Yeah, kind of like you're kissing them. But don't kiss them.
It's not like the shotgun microphones, like TV stations, where they can listen to you from a mile away.
Yeah. Now, Ben,
these are designed to exclude outside noise. So.
Yeah. Just talk.
Stay close.
There you go.
Stay close.
So I want to go back to the beginning of VOAD, which it's a fairly new organization, right? It was created in 2016,
Well, it really kind of blew up in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
I think West Virginia VOAD received its 501c3 status in 2014.
Okay.
But due to the 2016 flood, it really exploded.
So you were back. You were there at the beginning, right?
Not in 2014.
Tell me when you were introduced to West Virginia VOAD.
So my relationship with the West Virginia VOAD executive director goes back many, many years. So I'm from Mingo County, Mate 1 originally, and my sister, who has passed away tragically in 2017.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, she played softball for her, for West Virginia VOAD's executive director.
Would be Jenny
Ganaway.
That's correct. So my sister, coming up through middle school, played softball for her.
Well, she was a coach at that time?
She was, and her daughter, I think, played sports as well there in Mate 1. So,
these are close-knit communities in West Virginia anyway, right?
Mate 1's less than 500 people in the entire town.
Right.
Mingo County has less than 32,000 in the entire county, and we're 90 miles long. So, if you know somebody, typically you either know them or you've heard of them or you know their family.
Right.
So to know her was almost like she was, she was
part
a coach.
Of your family.
She was
right?
a coach.
Yeah.
You looked up to her, you respected her. She was a coach in the community.
Yep. All right. So take us back to how you came to be involved with VOAD. I guess through that connection with your sister.
So 2009 comes. Southern West Virginia faces some of the most horrific flooding events in Mingo County that we had seen in some time. So this was May of 2009. I was a volunteer firefighter at that time. We done a lot in the community. We, done a lot of different things in the community. But when the flood happened, everything diverted to making sure that we housed supplies, make sure we got water to people, et cetera, et cetera. So Jenny and I got to know each other more closely during that time because she was also doing the same thing at a local church in North Mate 1, West Virginia, which was about 15 minutes away from my community of Beach Creek.
Okay.
So when the National Guard would come in and they would bring all these supplies and things that needed to get out to the communities, they would usually take it to one place or to a combination of places, and then those little communities that were branched out from that would come in and obtain those supplies and get them back to their respected either churches, community centers, or fire departments. So we kind of got connected during that whole episode in Southern West Virginia in 2009.
Okay.
So this was before VOAD was created.
Yeah,
right?
this was before she even worked for VOAD.
Okay. What was she doing? I mean, do you know who her employer was?
Yeah, I think at that time, and I don't, don't correct. I'm not really sure. I can't say this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that she worked for she was like some kind of case manager, some kind of outreach manager at that time for like Ready, West Virginia.
Okay. So a nonprofit.
Yeah, so she was doing a little bit of outreach work at that time. So we got connected. The flood of 2009 was huge for Mingo County, so there was a lot of recovery there. And she had reached out to me after the flood, after really everything had died down. We were through the response phase. We were more in the recovery phase. And she said, I'm going to start this nonprofit called the Donald Taylor Community and Disaster Center in North Matewan. And that was just like a center that would help, low-income families, whether they were flooded or whether they just needed assistance in general. So she was like, do you want to come and volunteer? It was in a local church there. I came there. I was still in high school, by the way. So I came there.
Wow.
And this was 2009.
This was 2010, probably,
okay.
right after the flood. So I was still in high school. I was there volunteering. We done a lot of good work. We gave a lot of, supplies to single mothers. We done, it was a lot of good work there that we done during that time. During the whole course of that, I stayed there probably through 2010, probably most part of 2011. I actually graduated in 2011. Met my wife at that time. Life was happening. So my ability to be able to volunteer, taken away from trying to get a job, really just kind of went to the wayside. And I just told her, thanks for the opportunity, but I can't put in. I got to have a job. This was great, and I want to help out as much as I can when I can. But priorities changed at that time, and I had to support myself and my wife, and we were even looking to start a family at that time.
Right. So you eventually found a job. Did you reconnect with Jenny?
Yeah. So when I left there in North Matewan, Jenny had told me, she said, Ben, I appreciate everything you've done. If there's ever an opportunity to where I can pay you to do this type of work, I'm going to reach out.
Okay.
And I just, to be honest, I've told this in public many a times. I never thought I'd hear from her again. So I'm in a local supermarket in Buskirk, Kentucky. They're just over the bridge from Matewan. Run into her in the local supermarket. And she says, this was probably late 2014. She says, hey, I've taken over this thing called VOAD. And I'm like, what in the world is VOAD? Never heard of it before. She says it stands for Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. Kind of taken that over. And
How did she get that?
well, I think it was just her connections when she was working for Ready West Virginia and some things. Somebody at the American Red Cross here in Charleston had previously chaired it, but it wasn't really, it was more of just a quarterly meeting that nobody really paid much attention to. Okay. And her goal was, if she took it over, she wanted to make it big. She wanted to make it,
Yeah, we've seen the history of their budget.
Yeah, it's big.
Salaries.
So when that happened, we fast forward and she goes, hey, we meet her in the supermarket. I've got this. The Benedum Foundation has reached out to us, the Claude Worthen Benedum Foundation out of Pittsburgh. They're going to give us a $75,000 grant. We need somebody to kind of come in and just help out where you can. And I was like, I'm working at a car dealership at this time. At that time, floor manager, eventually sales manager.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, so she was
that
like,
was quite a sacrifice for you to change careers.
Right. Well, in the beginning, it was come 2 days a week of the evening at 6 or 7 o'clock after you got off your regular job, help us out for 2 or 3 hours in the evening. And then it turned from March of 2015 until October, I went full time as a contractor of October 2015.
As a contractor. So that would be someone kind of like a case manager,
I
guess? Maybe?
No benefits, right?
Yeah, no benefits. They would just pay me the hours that I worked. It wasn't like I was a full-time on-the-clock employee where I would clock in or clock out.
Okay. So how long did that last?
So I stayed there.
Working part-time?
Working part-time from October 2015.
And no schooling. I mean, correct? Okay.
You didn't get to go to post-high school.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
Correct.
So, all right.
So move forward there. I worked there for a little while. Actually, the owner of the car dealership called me in March or April of 2016 and said, hey, we want you to be sales manager. Can you come back? So it was money that I couldn't turn away. Sure. It was benefits I couldn't turn away.
Right.
So I left there. Jenny was very upset at that time. I'll never forget, we had really a heart-to-heart conversation in her office, and she says, if I could ever pay you what they're paying you, I'll call you. And I thought,
Never going to hear from her
never
again.
hear from her
Yeah.
until June the 23rd of 2016.
Okay.
Disastrous flood happens in this state. 12 counties are affected. 23 people lose their lives.
Right.
It was huge. It was during election year. Governor Justice, the Greenbrier was flooded.
You can probably our listeners could visualize in their heads the pictures from the Elk River community, especially
Yeah.
here in Kanawha County,
Yeah.
and in the White Sulphur Springs community.
Yeah, it was just pure devastation from the Clendenin all the way to White Sulphur Springs, two of our hardest hit areas. We had places affected from Jackson County all the way to Greenbrier County. So really the majority of the central part of the state was affected at that time. There was two girls that worked for her then that had already put in notice in June. Their lease was up. They were a part of AmeriCorps program, and AmeriCorps was just like college kids that are trying to get their tuitions paid,
Right.
and they go and they volunteer. Well, they stayed on full time for like a year after. One was from Tennessee, one was from North Carolina. So they said, "Okay, we're not staying here in West Virginia."
It was an American version of the Peace Corps, or
Right.
Yes.
You pretty much stayed in the country, but you did work like you would as if you were with the Peace Corps in overseas.
Correct. So these two girls done that. So she transferred them from that program to full-time employees or contractors at that time. And they stayed here and they stayed in southern West Virginia in Mingo County. And they said, we'll stay here a year. We'll give you a year. And then we don't know where our lives are going to end up. So June of that year, before the flood, they gave their notice and said, we're leaving on July 1. Mm-hmm. So this was June 1.
Yeah.
June 23rd, the flood happens.
Yeah.
So Jenny calls me and she says, hey, I'm a one-man show. I've lost the two girls that worked here. I've lost them. What I can do is I can take their two salaries. I can combine them if you'll come back and help. And at that time was about $20 or $25 an hour.
And what was your job when you went back there? Did you? So you took it.
You weren't like an accountant or bookkeeper or anything like that.
No, my specialty was mostly like volunteer coordination and like establishing projects.
Okay.
Working with other nonprofits to try to set up programs. We had a bridge program where we replaced private access bridges across the state. So that was fairly new, and being from a community in southern West Virginia that was heavily relied on private access bridges, there was a little bit of knowledge there, not necessarily in the overall construction of it, but just on how the need and how people operated.
Yeah.
So 2016 occurs, and I am stationed mostly in southern West Virginia in Williamson and Mingo County.
Does anything funny start to happen at that time?
Well,
Or
here's
things
what
that
happens.
seem odd
It
to
went
you?
from a $75,000 a year budget to Governor Earl Ray Tomlin at that time standing in front of TV cameras and saying, go to westvirginiafloodrecovery.com, I believe it was, and hit donate. We, don't send your used clothes, don't send your toys. Go there. Monetary donations are significant. Go to this website and donate. Well, when you went to that website and you clicked that button, it directed you to the West Virginia VOAD's page.
And VOAD is a national organization. It's not a fly-by-night.
Every state and territory in the country has its own VOAD.
Right.
They're a charter of a national organization.
Right.
So it went when you clicked donate, it went straight to VOAD.
Yes, and actually, when I tell you that there was times that there was another lady who was a member of the Mingo County Solid Waste, they were also housed in the office. We were in Mingo County. When I tell you that there was times we would open up that mailbox and envelopes would fall to the ground
Of
checks of $5, of $25, of $10. Sometimes it would be $500. Sometimes it would be $5,000. Wow. You just never knew. And the sweetest little notes from the people in there to say, it's not much. Here's $10. Help where you can.
So who was in charge of receiving that money? And
so that my job was to get it out of the mailbox in Williamson and get it to Charleston.
Okay.
Okay.
And then you gave it to.
We had it went to the West Virginia VOAD had what we call a fiduciary organization. It went to the United Methodist Foundation, who done majority of the money there from 2015 to 2016.
So your accounting job at that point just was basically getting the money from A to B,
opening envelopes and
and transporting the money. How did you get your current? your last job with VOAD, which was, remind me of your title again.
There was several different titles,
Yeah.
but I think the one that people will prominently remember from all the media articles here recently about my story was accounting and operations manager.
So you
for
were
West Virginia.
accounting and operations manager.
Without a degree.
Correct.
How did you get that job?
So I fast forward, we talked about the 2016 flood, DHHR at that time. FEMA comes in and says, we want to award a disaster case management program grant, which would allow an entity, an organization, typically years past, that was mostly the Red Cross. We're going to give them the money to deploy disaster case managers into the field to start to help with the recovery process. This was the biggest event we've seen in years. And what happened there was ultimately FEMA awarded DHHR like $5 million for this program that was going to employ up to 30-some people. Because they had no experience, DHHR said, we don't know how to do this.
Right.
So they had a sub-recipient agreement. They said, VOAD knows how to do this. That's their expertise. So we're just going to be the pass-through entity. We got $5 million, give or take whatever it was, not approximately $5 million.
Was there somebody else in there with some, fiduciary training or some
At that
accounting
point when
or
all this
bookkeeping
money
training?
came in?
No. So we done a mass hire December of 2016.
Okay.
A mass hire.
Okay.
And I'm talking, we probably brought 30 to 40 people in, done interviews, we done drug tests on the spot. And that is when we discovered a person, and just out of respect of him, I don't really want to mention his name.
Sure.
But, he was a former professor at a Southern West Virginia community college. He had an accounting degree and really great guy. He says, I'll come in and help where I can. I will be the accounting manager
Okay.
for the FEMA disaster case management grant.
Okay.
And he started that job, and I think everybody started full-time there like January the 9th of 2017. So we went from December 1 of having nobody, of 2 people, to January 9th probably having over 35 people on staff.
I mean, that's just a lot of money and a lot of growth, and bam, overnight.
It was overnight.
Okay.
All right, so you bring in an account manager because you need it now because you got $5 million,
Right.
and you got 30 employees.
Right.
So this gentleman comes in, and how long was he there?
So he was there from like January. He wasn't there a full year. I'm going to say January of 2017, maybe even late December. He might have been one of the first people that we had really decided on hiring through probably September, anywhere from August to October, somewhere in that.
And why was he
area.
let go? Was he let go? Was he fired?
So what happened was, and I was in Mingo County because we still had bridges from
You were doing what
2015
you had done before, which is assess needs on bridges in the community.
Working with volunteer groups down there.
Right.
That's right.
Okay.
So he was doing a great job, from my understanding, from a bird's eye view, and being in Williamson and Mingo County, getting the reports from Charleston. He was doing a great job. Everything was proceeding as great until it wasn't. And when I say it wasn't, there was an email that was sent from this accounting manager to our board secretary, and the email pretty much said that we have Director Ganaway and the one of another board member. He essentially said that they were using donated materials such as lumber and building materials for their own personal use. And that email said, I've reported this already. If nothing is done about it, I'm going to take this to the Attorney General. That was the first time I got to see the email, which told me that there was a prior email or a prior conversation that he had already brought this up.
I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and take a break.
Yeah, I want to take a break, but I first
we're
want to
getting ready
say
to
that
go to a different direction here.
I want to take a break, but I first want to say that Jenny Ganaway has admitted that this is the type of thing that she does. She takes donated goods, takes them to her home. She admitted it in front of a legislative body.
Eric Tarr, yeah. Senate Finance Chairperson.
She admitted it. So this goes way back, and it corroborates everything that she said a couple weeks ago. All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll head in a different direction. So we'll see you, or you'll hear us in a minute.
The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side, 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816.
And we're back with the second scoop of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod. Did you have something to say?
Well, I just wanted to, acknowledge our sponsors. They make all of this possible.
They do.
Biggly Piggly Wiggly.
The Big Pig.
On Spring Street.
Sorry.
Jody's Mobile Services. Of course, Integrity Insurance with Chris Walters. Auto, Home, Life, Business, Workers' Comp, and Pet Insurance, and they're on 16 Capitol Street. Also, Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. T-Graphics on the west side. 312 Buchanan Street. Those are some of our very important advertisers.
Yes.
And they make all of this possible.
They do. I'm so thankful for them. All right. So the account manager at the time threatened to report the donated goods being taken by board members and Executive Director Jenny Getaway to the Attorney General. Then he was let go.
Yeah, so there was a board meeting. I received a phone call at that time in Williamson and said, you need to get to Charleston by 1 o'clock. Had no idea what was going on. Just, get here and we'll fill you in on the way.
Yeah.
So I leave Williamson, and from my understanding, what I was told by a board member, there was a board meeting where this accounting manager actually confronted Ganaway in person at this board meeting. So it was a little bit of a back and forth. I think they each got to say their own side. He was told to go on back to the office and they would talk about it further with Ms. Ganaway. Ultimately, the board decided at that time that he was to be let go. So the call that
sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Yeah, all too familiar. So the board calls me, one of the board members, including Jenny Ganaway, and says, "Did you get to Charleston? We think that there's some things that's been going on with the accounts. We want you to take a look at it. Just get here as soon as you can." I get there, two individuals, the program manager of the DCMP program at that time and the accounting manager of the DCMP, and DCMP stands for Disaster Case Management Program, were both terminated that day.
Oh, how convenient.
Yeah, and so we had a conversation.
So they want you to look at the accounts.
Yeah, so they're like, "Come in. We don't know where the money is."
You have no accounting background.
No.
But they want you to look at the accounts. Okay, not as a knock against you, but that's $5 million.
Yeah, they're like, "Well, can you come in and just help us get a second?" The way it was presented to me was get a second set of eyes on it.
Okay,
try to figure out what's going on here. He's claiming all these things. We don't necessarily think they're true. Try to figure it out. Let's see what's going on.
Executive Director Ganaway asking you to do this?
That's correct.
Okay.
It's kind of like, hey, I'm not sure about this lawsuit, Ron. Can you take a look at it and see if it's right?
Right.
I have no clue.
So when I come in, the first thing we do is, we're in over our heads really quick. Because, again, no degree, no accounting degree.
Yeah.
We're like, what in the world is going on here? We don't understand it. So immediately the decision was made to hire an outside accounting firm. That was my recommendation. We need to hire an outside accounting firm, let them come in and figure that out.
Okay.
So we hire an outside accounting firm from Nitro. They come in and they take a look at everything. And I remember multiple meetings with Jenny and the owner/partner of this accounting firm who said, Jenny would say, "Where's my money? Where's the money?" Almost insinuating as if that money was taken, or that money was hidden, or there was
missing money somewhere.
Missing money,
according to her.
And I can remember multiple conversations with that partner, and him conveying this to the director was, we can't find any evidence of any missing money. We maybe all the things were reimbursed from the state, or maybe there were some things that might have been missed. We're not really sure.
But nobody's embezzling from you. Nobody's stolen money. Okay,
Correct.
That was her insinuation,
and that was multiple times. And I'm talking at least 2 to 3 meetings following his termination. Was where's the money? Where's it at?
Like maybe she didn't understand. I mean, I feel like that. The nonprofit biz, I wouldn't want to be on it, especially with that amount of money. But like maybe she didn't understand the reimbursement
process. She wasn't an
process.
accountant either. She didn't have an accounting degree.
Yeah.
Right.
With multiple grants going on, and I mean that's a lot. So then what?
So I'm essentially through into this. You're going to work with.
So then they give you the job of accounts manager.
Well,
right?
that's why they called it accounting and operations and accounting manager.
Okay.
Because I was still on the operational side of it. But when it come to that 2 days a week as working with that outside accounting firm, that was my job as well, is to try to figure out what needed to go where, what in what pot. So that's why it was almost like a dual role.
Yeah.
So you don't really see accounting and operations manager as a title,
right?
Typically, it's either one or the other.
And you have a high school education.
That's correct.
At this point.
That's correct.
So did VOAD continue? I know that they weren't with that same accounting firm, but did they continue? Did you continue a relationship with an outside accounting firm?
We did
through your tenure.
So what happened was one of the ladies that worked for this outside accounting firm, who was really our liaison in our office like 2 or 3 days a week, she had decided she was going to take another job with the state. This was a very small accounting firm. Our board and Director Ganaway kind of got nervous because she wasn't going to be there and there wasn't really a transition period. This was during tax season. So immediately they decide, wait a minute, you can't have somebody here. You can't tell us what's going on. We need to go another route. So that is when they let this accounting firm go and they hired Ellis & Ellis, who is here in Charleston, and Kim Williams is the partner. And she was the one that came out and really essentially took over those accounts from from like April of 2019 until present.
All right. So let's go. I guess my question is, and if I'm jumping the gun, you've got the outline over there. Do I need to?
No, you're.
If there's an outside accounting firm, how did you get away with what you got away with?
It's a very good question, actually. It's a very good question.
Yeah.
So just to kind of, and I can go down these rabbit holes all day long and tell you all the history, but from 2019, I'm sorry, from 2018, the Rise West Virginia program takes effect. HUD money comes in, $140 million.
Yes.
The governor puts a pause on it.
Which, by the way, ended up being
a mess.
A mess. Yeah.
Governor puts a pause on it. West Virginia VOAD kind of steps in along with the West Virginia National Guard.
And says, let us take over that.
Right.
Yeah.
They take over the bridge program. They take over a disaster case management program. And then in 2019, they decide to also do some rebuilding of some homes.
Okay.
So West Virginia VOAD, now let's give some context here. West Virginia VOAD's budget in March of 2015 was $75,000 a year. At the end of 2019, it was almost $9 or $10 million.
And that money came from state and federal sources.
State and federal, correct.
Wow. HUD,
FEMA, and a portion through DHHR, which may have been federal money too as well.
Okay. All right.
So that gives you the context on how quickly it blew up. So moving forward,
clearly, I mean, I'm just, clearly I'm saying these people weren't ready for this. Like, this organization,
I don't think they were trained.
This board,
it blew up overnight.
Yeah.
So and I'm still living in Mingo County. 2019, 2018. This happened with his previous accounting manager in 2017.
Okay.
So for almost 4 years, I drove an hour and 47 minutes from my home in Mate 1 to Bell, West Virginia every day. I dropped my kids off at 7:30 in the morning. I got to Charleston a little bit after 9 o'clock. There was times I didn't leave there till 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening, not getting home until after 9 at night.
For 4 years.
I've done that for 4 years.
Okay.
Which is why I decided to move to Charleston in 2020.
Okay.
March of 2020, I moved. Now, that's a key date. Well, February 2020.
What were you making when you lived in Mate 1 from the organization? Do you
remember?
Think
at that time, Ashley, I was probably on payroll at $25 an hour.
Okay.
So at that time, I think Jenny was probably making upwards of $75,000 to $100,000 a year, if not more. So what happened at that time was my issue was I'm going to have to uproot my kids' lives. I'm going to have to uproot everybody's lives because I can't do this anymore. I can't continue to drive to Charleston every day, day in and day out.
And you're serving a dual purpose there at $25 an hour. You're basically the guy handling the finances and
doing day to day.
Okay.
So what happens then?
So you say I'm going to move. Did you tell Jenny that?
Oh yeah, she knew it. She knew it. And this is kind of where this whole thing, when it starts with my whole situation, is. Jenny had told me, and I want to give the listeners here context as well.
Okay.
Jenny had told me that, Ben, I'm making over $100,000 a year. Mm-hmm. I have a rental paid for by the organization.
Rental car that was essentially paid for by federal funds, sometimes state funds, or the combination of both.
Okay.
I have a monthly rental, a monthly hotel lodging.
Because she lives out of state, right?
Not at this time. She was still in West Virginia. She still lived in Matewan. She has a home in Matewan.
So she was in Matewan, but she was staying at a hotel in Charleston at VOAD's expense.
Yeah, and we're talking $1,500-$1,600 a month that someone was paying. VOAD was either paying, the state was paying, or the federal government was paying. Plus, on top of that rental, on that hotel rental, she was getting probably 4 to 5 days of per diem.
Yeah, per diem.
So, and her gas was paid for because she was in a rental.
She didn't have any expenses.
Her plea to me was,
I could do the same for you.
I can do the same for you. Here's how this is. I'm not out any other expenses. My per diem's paid. My housing is paid.
It's a good gig, Ben.
It's right. Move up here.
Yeah.
This will be kind of your relocation or your moving expenses. And this is the way we'll be able to pay you, by just adding in extra mileage. Her plea at that time was, we have all these grants that has mileage expenses in them. We either, and I quote, use it or lose it. So
you got to spend the money, or you don't
spend it, or
you
we
don't
won't
get
get
as
it next
much
year.
money next year.
That's right.
That's the way state government works.
So that's how she was going to pay you.
Correct. So when we're talking mileage and expense, that is how that this $285,000 over almost 4 years added up. And the government said, when they finally questioned me about it, I didn't have anything to fall back on. I didn't have anything in writing. I had some things where she had talked about it before, but nothing that was concrete to where I could say, yeah, well, she approved this. And they said, well, how do you know that she approved it? And I said, well, she signed off on it. Where's the mileage expenses? They're
let me
at
get
the
this straight. How come she's not in trouble for the same thing? Like, if this is how...
Are they taking her word for it?
They had to. And I go back to this. And
so it's not like you were sitting there. You didn't sit there and conspire to steal money. This was an agreement, a verbal agreement between you and Jenny as to how she could make this worthwhile for you to move here.
Ashley, and let me say this out front. Did it raise red flags in my head? Sure.
Absolutely, I'm sure it did.
I'm like, why are we doing it this way and not the other way?
But you're not really experienced in the workings of nonprofits or business in general.
Right. But at the end of the day, in my gut, and
you knew it wasn't right.
I knew it wasn't right. It should have said something then. Hindsight's 20/20. Should have, would have. We always look back. We wish we'd have done things differently. I knew it wasn't right. I should have stood up then and said, why are we doing it this way? But she had assured me that she had already talked to the board.
Paperwork, no documentation.
And I knew that, but here's the thing: I was getting paid. I wasn't worried about where it was coming from. I was worried about if she.
Did you turn in a timesheet every week?
I did.
Okay,
I did, and I turned in a mileage sheet and a reimbursement sheet that was signed off on. Where those mileage and reimbursement sheets are now, the world only knows.
Could they have helped your case?
Oh, they would 100% help my case. If I would have had those mileage and reimbursement sheets signed off on. But when I was told that it, and I was very assertive on this, this was approved of. But their exact
they're like, you have
response,
no proof of that.
Well, you have no proof of it, but also you also knew it was wrong. I wasn't going to lie when somebody come and question me. I wasn't going to lie to an investigator and say, in the back of my mind, did I really think it was wrong? I wondered then if it was wrong, but I never really said anything. And that's where they kind of stumped me up and tripped me up on my words, because they said, you knew it was wrong. Mm-hmm. You knew it was either false mileage or exaggerated mileage. And because of that, you knowingly done it with no other proof elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's all.
So
there it was.
So she denies any of this happened.
1,000% she denies it.
And you know, here another thing is you trusted her.
Oh,
She had been
with
part of your
everything.
life for years. She was your sister's softball coach. Your sister passed away.
You were from the same community.
Well, let me tell you what I think happened. I think there was the whistleblower complaint that you guys have already reported on. You've seen the letter from Mr. Hager.
Yes,
He
Tyler
came
Hager.
to me. He was a whistleblower. I had no choice but to take that up the ladder. Do you honestly think, and I want people to understand this, do you honestly think that if I was knowingly doing things incorrectly or knowingly a scheme to defraud, Mr. Ponzi, if you will,
Right.
if I was knowingly doing these things, why would I say, hey, board chair, we need to have a call and I need you to come over here, raising the flag saying, hey, come look over here. Why would I encourage somebody to look over here if I knew that
Because
I was
Tyler
taking
Hager
money?
is a relative of Jenny Ganaway, and he came to you with what?
With saying that he was working on her home to remodel it and make one to put it up for sale, that he was taking donated
Using
items from the
vehicles,
warehouse to take
donated
to her home in
items.
Roanoke.
He came to you with that information, and you took it to the board,
Took it straight to the board. Took it straight to the board chair.
knowing that it was going to probably come to light, shed light on everything
How did she come to be suspended? What was that?
That my initial we had a Zoom call that night after I reported it to the board chair. That very next day they placed her on suspension.
Okay.
So
Well, they
as a result of
investigated.
my complaint to the board chair, she was placed on suspension the following morning.
So
Okay.
then there was an investigation done, and
well, air quotes.
she gets exonerated.
They investigated themselves, basically.
Correct. So I have a text from Kim Tiemann, who is the board chair, who tells me, and I said, I responded because they put me in as acting executive director at that time. And they say, I said, if a board member calls me, there's 9 board members total. If one calls me and they want to know some information, like what am I allowed to share and what am I not allowed to share? And actually, I think you have this text message I gave you. You're more than welcome to put that up for everybody to see.
Yeah.
But Kim Tiemann essentially says, you are not allowed to talk to the board about any of this. Only Jeff and I, which is another board member, and you're only allowed to talk to the other board members about day to day. Board members have very limited knowledge as to what is taking
going
place
on.
here. So Kim Tiemann's plea to me was, this is a way to keep
the lid on it.
we don't want too many people knowing this. I mean, we have board members that kind of have loose lips. We don't want them to get, let this get out.
Wow.
But ultimately, within 2 weeks, they had an investigation, found no wrongdoing.
A couple of them had an investigation, right?
Yeah, so found no wrongdoing. And I don't know how, if you're on a board or I'm on a board, if you see these videos, if you see these documents and you see all these things and you have multiple people saying the same thing, how in the world do you not have a conversation with these people or with Ms. Ganaway and say, how do you say you're clear?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, in Senator Tarr's words, how in the world is Jenny Ganaway still executive director?
do you want to know why?
Why?
Yeah.
Kim Tiemann's on her side.
The board chair.
Kim Tiemann and her spend Christmases together. There's multiple Facebook pictures out there of them two together.
Yeah, they're close.
They're very close, and I'm not sure how much. I'm not sure how much it's really entangled there. But it was very clear to me from the beginning of the investigation that Kim Tiemann was doing whatever needed to be done to make sure Jenny Ganaway would remain as executive director.
Talk to us a little bit about Timothy Pretty. How much was he involved?
Oh, he was very involved.
Okay.
He's actually the board member. He's a board member, but he's also been under investigation for wire fraud and
Right, from
embezzling
DHHR.
Set to plead guilty on Monday,
Set
the
to
22nd.
plead guilty on Monday.
Okay.
So Timothy Pretty was a board member, DHHR. I don't know if you know this, but DHHR actually funneled a lot of money into West Virginia VOAD through
Yes. Yeah,
we've
Gala
seen that.
trailers and
Yes.
things.
Yeah, we've seen that.
So, but now he's in his own situation,
Yep.
and I know how the federal government works, and I know how that federal court system works. And all I can say is God be with him, because it's clear if they have anything at all, you are really against it for sure.
I mean, and rightly so, right? Like these are taxpayer dollars. These
have a
are
job to do.
federal funds. They have a job to do to protect us.
When we come back from the break, I'd like to talk about, where they are now with their funding. What funding are they still getting? What are they doing with their funding now? So you've been gone for about a year, I guess.
16 months.
16
roughly.
months. Okay, so I don't know if you have any insight of what things are like there now.
Well, I've been following the news and keeping up with my case at the same time.
Yeah.
So, and I think a lot of the things that's recently come out in the committee hearings and on the news, I think WCHS has reported some.
The TV station.
TV stations. Those are all things that took place during my time there. So I can provide a lot of insight on that for sure.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and take a break. We got about one segment left, so we got 20 minutes to kind of dive into the rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say.
Yeah.
Sure. Stay tuned. It's going to be interesting.
Yep. We'll be right back.
The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side, 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816.
And we're back with the third scoop of the Scoop Squad Truth Pod, and it has been two doozies of a scoop.
Right. We've got Benjamin Cisco back with us, who has pleaded guilty to embezzlement charges.
Wire fraud, right? Not embezzlement.
2 counts wire fraud.
Yeah.
Wire fraud for his connection with West Virginia VOAD.
All right, continue on, sir.
Yeah, so as I told you, Jenny was placed on leave. It was very apparent that Kim Tiemann, the board chair, was on her side. There's multiple conversations she and I had through the weekends and nights, just defending her at every turn, trying to come up with some justification as to why Jenny would act this way.
And how did they finally let you go?
So Jenny was placed on leave from like August the 17th of 2022. She was brought back the day after Labor Day, like I think it was September the 7th or something to that effect, 2022. And they had brought her back. A lot of things had changed. Jenny was on edge. She knew somebody had said something. It was a very difficult time in the week or two.
That's when we hear that there's a meeting with case managers and they say, we're going to look the other way. Like, we can't tell you how
business as usual.
Business as usual. We're just conduct business as usual, and we are not going to say a word.
Yeah, and you released. I just want to be clear here. You released those 2 videos.
Yeah.
I wasn't in the room.
Yeah.
These are things, and you can imagine that if Jenny Ganaway was so candid to talk about this with multiple people in the room, not knowing who was filming or who was recording.
If you accuse me, I didn't say it.
It just goes to speak to what really happened on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
It really shows the culture.
Just so that nobody thinks that, you've kind of set things up to make yourself look good. You were not in the room.
Not in the room.
Right.
When those videos took place. You were not the one doing the recording.
And let me say this, Jenny trusted me probably more than anybody there because we had been together for so long.
Yeah.
So if she was going to say something, if she would say those types of things and I wasn't even in the room, you can imagine what she told me behind closed doors.
Now, who all was in the room?
I think Tyler Hager, the one video was Tyler Hager and Sarah Hambrick and Jenny Ganaway. That's when they were discussing the selling of the items, and she's saying, the auditor will let us know when he's coming, and I'll write it down for Kentucky Flood. Right. That was those 3. I think there was only 3 of those in the room from what I can tell. If someone was there, they never spoke.
Right.
The other recording was of multiple case managers, and I'm saying probably there was 8 to 9 people total in that meeting, and that is when the HR manager, Adola Miller, is very prominently saying, and I go back to saying, well, none of this ever happened, okay?
Right.
And we didn't really say that out loud.
Right.
So you can imagine
But it's being recorded.
It's crazy.
You can imagine the level of just, I don't know, you'd have to have nerves of steel to be able to say that out loud.
Well, you'd have to believe that you are untouchable and you can do. It's just very arrogant.
Are you hearing anything from the inside that organization now
today?
From former employees or
so let me say this, and I hope
we have. Ron and I have gotten several emails, and
my hope is that now that my case, the final chapter, there's still some things to come, but majority of my case is now closed up, and my hope now is that those out there listening that work for VOAD, that was a colleague, that was at another organization, that worked closely with VOAD, and they know what happened there. My plea to anybody out there that this podcast will reach, speak up.
Yes.
Please tell your truth, because there's a lot of people out there that know
we
the
will
truth.
listen. You can reach us at scoopsquadwv@gmail.com or go on Facebook Messenger us. We'll listen to you.
Well, and it's a pretty healthy fear, because I'm sure that they see what happened to you, and you were one of Jenny's closest allies for a long time.
Oh.
And she has thrown you under the bus.
Well, it came down to you or her.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Jenny comes back September 7th. I'm let go on September the 28th, and the only response that I got was red flags.
And this was September of 2022.
So, and let me go to this to show you how much that I thought, well, they just got rid of me for whatever reason. And I had no idea. Whenever I got a knock on the door from federal agents, it was literally a blindside, because I actually applied for unemployment benefits. I was awarded unemployment benefits because VOAD never would say that I was fired for a reason other than just saying I was fired. So I received unemployment benefits from September until almost the time that I had agents knock on my door.
So it was treated like you were laid off.
Yeah, nothing. I had no idea that any of this was ever being said. I never received a target letter, which is really rare in these cases. I never received a target letter, so I never had a chance to be able to get out ahead of this and be able to work with an attorney to dispute some of these claims, to maybe get. But it's almost like when it hit me in a 1-2 punch. Because
that was design. That was
when did
by design.
you contact an attorney?
I was appointed an attorney the day. So I have a friend that's an attorney. I reached out to her immediately after agents came. Agents came there on a Wednesday, and the following Wednesday I was picked up and charged. So I had 1 week of preparation.
To prepare.
Correct.
And by that time, I mean, documents that you could have possibly relied on were all gone.
They were sanitized.
Long gone.
Yeah, man.
Long gone. They claim that I destroyed documents. They claim that I had.
Why would you do that? Like those documents would have exonerated you.
Exactly.
I mean, not exonerated, but protected you in some way.
It would have definitely rewrote the narrative.
Right.
It would have definitely rewrote the narrative, and
it was not in your best interest to destroy documents.
No, it wasn't. And that's not true.
Yeah.
To say that I went in and destroyed documents, they even actually said that I even went as far as to disconnect the power from the organization so that cameras would be disabled, so I could go in and destroy documents. Yeah, they were saying this right before the 2022 conference that they had in South Charleston. They were saying that we had a power outage there.
Yeah,
they were saying that was all because of me, which was never proven. It was never brought up. It was never in any formal charges, but that was the claim.
Wow. Yeah, and I'm thinking now, like, I just can't wrap my head around the fact, like, you've had a county commission that has revoked. I mean, I kind of want to get back to the accounting firm.
Let's do it.
Like, how does this slip? Like, where is the accounting firm here?
Judge Berger said in open court that it was, and I think she used the word, it's actually astonishing that you were able to take that much in that short amount of time without anyone noticing.
Yeah.
How do you miss overnight $871,000 within 2.5 years?
Yeah.
I know if $30 goes out of my bank account right now.
Yeah.
And let me also say this. Let me get this out in front.
Okay.
I was not an authorized signatory on any banking institution with West Virginia VOAD. I did not have signatory powers on any kind of checks. I did not process payroll. Our outside accounting firm was actually the person who transmitted payroll. The only thing that I done with payroll was to call all the employees and say, hey, you need to submit your time into a program. Once they submitted it, our outside accounting firm actually linked those accounts together, processed payroll. I never once clicked transmit.
So how do they think you took the money? If
falsified mileage expenses. Falsified
$800,000 in mileage expenses,
but it never was missed until it was missed in one day. So, over a 2.5 year period. That's the part that really blows my mind.
That is amazing.
That is amazing.
I mean, do you get to appeal this, or is there any?
No, here's and this is where I have stood in open court. I have accepted responsibility for my actions, and I will continue to accept those responsibilities. I'm not saying what I've done here is justifiable in any way. It's not. I should have known better. I should have done a lot of things differently. And I will spend the rest of my life making up for that. I will try to repair my character. I will try to repair my relationships. Hopefully, and I know that people out there listening that truly know me know the person I am. And it's not what these court documents portray me to be. Right. I've accepted my responsibility. I have apologized to anybody that I know to apologize to. I am truly sorry for what my actions have caused the organization. Right. Because here's the thing, VOAD does need to continue on. It done a lot of great work. Yeah. And I'm sure it will continue to do great work for years to come.
And meanwhile, you've got an executive director, Jenny Ganaway, who stands in front of a legislative body and outright lies about things. Not only lies, but she also admits to things.
That's what gets me is you come out of that room and you say, well, I was cleared by an independent counsel. Well, how do you get
cleared from how do you get cleared from documenting or falsifying an IRS document? I mean, when we talk about that, and I wanted to touch on that before we have to wrap up, but Senator Tarr directly asked her if there was a client in Nicholas County who did not qualify because of money, and did VOAD or did she fix the IRS document?
There is a text message out there. Jenny, I'm on the road. Jenny texts me and says, I'm not going to say the client's name, but this person, she says, OMG. And I say, what's up? And she says, this person is $40,000 over income. Yeah. And I go, oh no. And she goes, we have to fix his income. So I can tell you that this client made $40,000 more per year than he was allowed to make to qualify for HUD assistance. But at the end of the day, his IRS document showed otherwise. And I can tell you that that document was altered. That document was uploaded into the case management system that is currently housed at the West Virginia Department of Commerce. And that was not done by me.
And that person didn't falsify the document, the client.
No, the client thought he was eligible for assistance and has no idea.
He's not going to fraud the government. No. I mean, he's not going to do that.
No.
And why didn't she just go to see the Commerce Department, right? Remind me, the community
development block grant funds.
Yes,
through HUD.
Why didn't she just go there and say we've made a mistake?
I ask myself that question every day. Can we not try to figure out a way to? And they would have probably worked with us and said, "Hey, it was a mistake. It was maybe a low-level case manager. It happens."
Do you think she just didn't want to open that can of worms?
Well,
because
I'm probably afraid of what they would find if they continued to look into it.
Might look into some other things.
And then what about the PPP? What about the Paycheck Protection
So
funds?
There was 30-some employees there at West Virginia VOAD. As you know, Paycheck Protection was designed to keep people on payroll. West Virginia VOAD applied for a loan. They received $400,000 in Paycheck Protection program monies. And there was they realized really quickly that we couldn't double dip. So essentially a federal program couldn't be paying our employees. And at the same time, we couldn't claim them that we're keeping them on payroll because they already have a funding source. We wasn't losing them because of COVID,
right?
Like a restaurant would because they had to close their doors,
right?
So what happened was Jenny come to me and said, "Well, what about giving out hero bonuses or first responder bonuses?" And I was like, "Well, that's a great idea because we have case managers every day that are in the homes that are client facing that are really staring COVID in the face." But that wasn't what happened. There was about 8 to 10 people, give or take, approximately, that received PPP bonuses. And I don't think a single one of those wasn't eligible, number one, but I don't think a single one of those were actually case managers that were actually in client homes staring COVID
Well, Jenny
in the
was one
face.
of them.
Jenny received a $10,000 PPP bonus. And all checks over $2,500, that was a non-recurring check with West Virginia VOAD, required a second signature. I can tell you that those 8 to 10 bonuses that went out of that organization, not on one occasion, but on 2 occasions, in April of 2020 and in December of 2020, only had one signature, including her own, and that signature was hers. So she signed a check that was written to her in the amount of $10,000 with no second board member signature.
And in front of Senator Tarr, she actually blamed her CPA, saying
she blamed myself and the CPA and some other folks. Yeah, but that was really a backtrack.
Yeah.
I mean, she knew the answer to that question,
Yeah.
and that's why she couldn't answer it.
Yeah. I just wonder what,
So since that time, Ashley, and, I've tried to move on with my life. I've tried to number one, thank you for letting me tell my story here.
Absolutely.
I've had the board chair circle my job, pull in the parking lot just to see if I'm there. Gosh. I'm not sure if they're taking pictures. They've taken pictures of my children who go out to eat. That's my kids go in the Riverside School District.
Are they trying to intimidate you to be quiet? What do you think that's about?
I'm not really sure, but it plays with my mind a lot to be able to. I can't feel like I can get this past me when I look up and they're circling the parking lot or they're taking photographs
of your
my
current
children.
job where you
Correct.
work now.
Yeah, and I've been gone from there, like I said, coming up on 16 months.
Well, we've got about 5.5 minutes left. Is there anything that we've left out that you really want to dive into?
Oh, we got 2. We got 2 minutes. That's all right.
Any final questions? No question off limits. I mean, I want to be as honest and transparent as I can.
Where do you go from here?
Well, it's a 41-month sentence. We were hoping for a 19th. We got a 19-month sentence. The government asked for a 51.
So that's about 3.5 years, right?
Yeah. Judge Berger ruled in our favor on the financial hardship. She ruled that I did not cause substantial financial hardship to the organization. That was a big win for us.
That's a big win.
Kimberly Williams submitted an affidavit that was brought up in court that we essentially hired an accounting firm that debunked a lot of it, said that there was a lot of double counting. There was a lot of issues with that affidavit, which in turn was the reason why Judge Berger ruled in our favor. So to give you a snapshot of what this looks like, with the First Step Act signed by President Donald Trump and the Sentencing Reform Act signed by President Bush, we're looking at good time plus the First Step Act credits. That brings it immediately down to 22 months right out of the gate. And then the last year can be spent up to a year on BOP's discretion, could be spent on home confinement. So worst case scenario, we're looking at about 16 months because the final 6 months will have to be spent on home confinement. Best case, we're probably looking around 10 months in a camp type situation. Right. So we're going to be with no perimeter fencing. We'll be, we'll move past this. And my faith, my family, that's what keeps me going every day. And there is a story on the other side of this. That
I'm so glad that you told this story because, there's more of a context for people now. Like, if you read the story in the newspaper, like you said, this is not how my story is going to end. And I told you a long time ago, you're a good person.
I appreciate
You're a good person. I could tell from the minute I heard your voice that you're a good person and you made a mistake and you got caught up in something that, you just got caught up in.
The difference with me is I will own
and
my
you're
mistakes
owning
and I will
it.
pay for
and
it.
man, that's the big thing.
You're still a scapegoat for.
Yeah.
I feel like I am.
Yeah.
But to be continued. It looks
absolutely.
Like. We want to have you back.
This is not the end. This is not the end. The joint legislation or the Joint Legislative Committee voted unanimously to send VOAD to 3 different legislative organizations for audit, for investigation. I wonder, will they come to you? Do you think?
I haven't been contacted yet. I will gladly cooperate in anywhere that I can. My only hope here is, and I will reiterate this again, is the bad apples are pulled from the tree, and the organization as a whole and its overall mission will continue to thrive and continue to do good work for the people of West Virginia, because in our topography and the way we handle disasters here, it's critical that we have organizations, and not just VOAD, but other organizations that step in and respond at times.
That's right. And we just need oversight, people. we need oversight.
You think there's oversight, but who's overseeing?
There's just no way that can be.
Who's overseeing the overseers?
Absolutely. I mean, it's just huge.
And I can say that I have cooperated with the federal government.
Yeah.
I've met with them on multiple times, and I will. If the legislative committee subpoenas or calls me to testify, I'd be happy to do so. Because at this point, I'm standing for what I've done.
Yeah.
I'm going to repay my debts to society and be a better person because of
this
it.
isn't the end, and and it's not going to be the end until justice is served to everyone. So, and that includes taxpayers.
Right.
Thank you both for what you do here. It is it's great work, and I really appreciate you inviting me on.
Well,
for sure.
Like I said, I appreciate you. I think I know what kind of person you are. I haven't even known you that long. And good luck to you and your family, and you're going to be fine. I feel it.
We will get on the other side.
You
of this,
are a
for sure.
resilient person, and you've got a supportive family. So, and I'm behind you.
Faith, family, and just moving forward.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we've had this is an interesting episode. It's kind of a unique episode, but we thank our listeners for hanging in there. And we've kind of stretched this out over the last several months.
Yeah.
As we've gotten information, so there'll be more to come. We ask you to keep up with us. Check us out on Facebook. We'll also be on X, formerly Twitter. You can always email us at scoopsquadwv@gmail.com. So if you know something extra, we want to hear from you.
See something, say something. And we've got the board members' numbers and names up on our Facebook page. And if you think this story sounds cuckoo, then give them a call.
Right. We will,
and demand justice.
We will talk to you next week. And I remind you to go back and check the special episode we did a few days ago prior to this recording about Max Fisher and his exploits in Gaza.
And next week we'll have city stuff, and I think Derek Evans is coming on next week too.
Okay, great.
So is that
Derek Evans from January 6th?
Yeah.
Former House of Delegates.
Yeah. So that'll be interesting.
He's got an interesting story, I'm sure.
All right, sir. Good to see you.
Thank you so much. Great to see you.
And thank you, Charleston, and we will talk at you next week. Bye.
If you would like to tie your business with this popular podcast, you can contact me, Ron Hughes, to advertise at ron.hughes, ron.hughes, at wvradio.com, or you could call me at 304-342-8131. The Scoop Squad Truth Pod would like to thank our sponsors. Those include Chris Walters at Integrity Insurance, featuring auto, home, life, business, workers' compensation, and pet insurance. Pet insurance, you say? That's health insurance for your dogs or cats that covers special foods, illnesses, surgeries, and medication. They're on 16 Capitol Street in Charleston at 346-9181, or reach them at www.iigwv.com. Also by Jody's Mobile Services, offering steam cleaning, pressure washing, fleet washing, and auto detailing. We come to you. They're at 304-437-3164. And also by Eggplant on Bridge Road. Anything but ordinary. Go to eggplantshop.com. Also by T-Graphics on the west side, 312 Buchanan Street, 345-4816. Go to tgraphics.com for screen printing and embroidery since 1984. Again at 345-4816. Rebroadcast, retransmission, or transcription is not permissible without the expressed approval of Scoop Squad Truth Pod.
Copyright 2024.